The temperature fell by 15 degrees over just 6 days. A whole family perished exactly where they were seated, their last bites still frozen in their mouths. This happened 40,000 years ago, but it could just as easily happen again tomorrow. Back in the Ice Age, Earth followed a different rule book, one where life could vanish without a sign. Welcome to a time where survival was never promised. From the very first hour, stepping onto the Mammoth Steppe feels like being punched. It's minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit and the wind howls at 30 miles per hour, creating a wind chill that plunges to minus 53 degrees. At that level of cold, any exposed skin will begin to freeze in less than 15 minutes. Modern winter clothing fails almost instantly. Synthetic insulation collapses under the pressure of the wind, losing up to 80% of its warmth-retaining ability. Cotton fabrics, jeans, underwear, socks trap moisture and transfer the cold straight to your skin. Rubber-soled shoes become stiff as stone, offering zero protection from the icy ground beneath. But it's the wind that's the real danger. It tears away the thin, warm air layer your body tries desperately to keep around itself. Early humans designed all their clothing to combat this. They wore layered animal furs with hair aligned in various directions, outer shells that resisted wind, and seams so tightly sealed. They still outperform today's high-end gear. Within minutes, blood vessels in your hands and feet begin to constrict. Blood flow is redirected inward to keep your core warm. Fingers turn stiff, toes lose feeling. You start to lose the ability to grip, manipulate, even zip up your coat. By hour 2, your internal temperature has dropped by half a degree. It's not hypothermia yet, but it's coming. The body switches to emergency heating mode, shivering uncontrollably, burning calories 3 times faster than normal. Muscles tremble to produce heat through friction. But the energy cost is huge and unsustainable. Here's the fatal equation: shivering burns about 300 calories per hour. Trekking through snow? Another 200. Fighting against the wind? Add 100 more. That's 600 calories burned every hour. And the average person only carries about 1,200 calories of immediately usable energy. Your fuel tank empties fast. At the same time, cold-induced diuresis kicks in. Blood pressure climbs, forcing the kidneys to flush out fluid. You start dehydrating just when your body needs every resource it can spare to make heat. This stress doesn't hit just one system. It cascades across them all. Arctic ancestors had a defense, deliberate fat gain. Generations evolved to efficiently convert stored fat into warmth. By hour 4, the Mammoth Steppe stretches out endlessly. A barren flat land with no trees, no hills, no landmarks. Only knee-high grass beneath a sky so gray it offers no clues for direction. Getting lost here isn't a risk, it's a certainty. Within hours, hypothermia starts to cloud the brain. Since your brain uses 20% of your glucose supply, it begins running low as your core temp drops. Judgment falters. You can't think clearly. You lose the ability to form the short-term memories you'd need to retrace your path. But the indigenous Arctic peoples had navigation down to an art. They read grass movement, wind shifts, subtle color changes in snow, even the stars invisible to most eyes. These weren't instinctual skills. They took lifetimes to master and had to be passed down through generations. For the modern person, lost and freezing, it wouldn't take long before they began wandering in circles. Their remaining energy would drain away with every inefficient, aimless step, while their brain falsely assured them things weren't that bad. Hour 6. There's movement in the grass. Slow, steady, and heavy. Predators in the Ice Age weren't like the ones we know today. There were no highways, no guns, no fear of people. Cave lions tipped the scales at nearly 500 pounds. Larger than modern lions, though not the monsters once imagined. They could crack mammoth bones with a single bite. They hunted in groups and had no built-in fear of humans. Deodorants, soaps, synthetic clothes, processed foods, they all send out chemical signals that travel for miles. Early hunters masked their scent with smoke, fat, and plants, becoming almost invisible to prey. We, however, reek like strangers to this world. And now, hypothermia has dulled your startle reflex and slowed your reaction time. Even if you spot a predator, you might not move fast enough to run or have anything useful to fight with. Ice Age humans carried a whole arsenal: knives, clubs, spears, and ladles. Spear throwers capable of hurling projectiles through thick animal hides from 40 yards away. By our 8, your glycogen reserves are nearly gone. Your body starts eating its own muscles for emergency fuel. It's less efficient, and worse, it sacrifices the very tissues you need to generate heat and keep moving. At this stage, even if someone rescued you, recovery becomes less and less likely. And finding food, that's another survival test altogether. Which plants are still edible after they freeze? How do you read animal tracks in snow? Where are food caches hidden? How do you safely process meat without modern tools? Ancient humans had these answers memorized. They knew thousands of things about seasonal foods, how to cook and preserve them. We might recognize a handful. Maybe some summer berries if we're lucky. Winter in the Ice Age demanded calories from sources most modern people would never even consider. Bone marrow, liver, fermented fish, stashed nuts, dried insects, these were the lifeblood of survival. Without them, starvation compounds every threat. Motor control breaks down. Your immune system fails. And your body's ability to stay warm shuts down as the last of your energy disappears. By our 12, there's no wood to burn. But ancient survivors didn't rely on trees. They used dried dung, animal fat, and even bone marrow as fuel. They carried fire starting kits with backups. Flint and steel, fire plows, bow drills, and charred cloth capable of catching a spark in damp conditions. Fire did more than just keep people warm. It turned snow into drinking water, made food digestible, acted as a beacon for help, and offered a fragile sense of safety during endless, frozen nights. But most importantly, fire created a pocket of stability, a space where body heat could be maintained, and the slow descent into death could, for a time, be reversed. In extreme cold, however, modern tools fail fast. Disposable lighters seize up below 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Matches blow out instantly in strong winds. Wet kindling paper, cardboard can't catch or hold a flame, even when you do get a fire going. Keeping it alive requires precise control over airflow, fuel balance, and heat retention. Early humans didn't learn these things in books. They figured them out by necessity because when fire goes out, death speeds up. No heat means no water, no food, no way to signal for rescue. Worse, it means no psychological anchor. In the darkness and cold, the mind begins to unravel. By our 16, the real enemy becomes isolation. Humans are wired for connection. Our survival, from the beginning, depended on each other. Long periods of being alone trigger stress reactions that make physical survival even harder. Ancient people never traveled solo in winter. It was too dangerous. Group strategies were built into their cultures. Without others to rely on, the cold becomes smarter than you. As core temperature drops, hypothermia targets the brain's control center first, the prefrontal cortex. This region controls decision-making, emotional stability, and risk analysis. Once it's compromised, judgment deteriorates fast. People become paranoid. They can't tell how much danger they're in. They make reckless, often fatal decisions. You begin to notice the umbles, stumbling, mumbling, fumbling, and grumbling. The classic signs that hypothermia is shifting from a problem you can survive to one you probably won't. Early humans watched for these signs in each other and had methods to intervene. Alone, there's no one to stop you from making the worst choice of all, to sit down and just rest. Lying on the frozen ground is a death sentence. Heat leaches from your body into the earth, faster than you can make it back.
R20. Your core temperature hits 93F. The enzymes that run your cells slow down. Your heart's electrical signals become erratic. Breathing becomes weak and shallow. Your blood thickens as fluid loss from cold diursis and cellular dehydration set in. Now your heart has to push heavy, viscous blood through tight, constricted vessels. Oxygen fails to reach your organs. Meanwhile, your body is screaming for more energy. Around this point, something bizarre often happens. You start undressing. It's not because you feel warm. It's because your brain is confused. You act on twisted logic, ripping off clothing as if that will help. Many hypothermia victims are found half naked in the final hours. Your kidneys begin shutting down. Toxins flood your bloodstream. Your consciousness flickers like a dying flame. R22, you're not alone anymore. They've been following for miles now. Drawn by your sense of weakness, Ice Age wolves were nothing like today's. Massive, some as big as ponies. They were predators that understood humans better than humans understood them. A healthy person rarely interested them, but someone moving oddly, smelling wrong, and clearly failing to survive, that was easy prey. Ancient people knew how to deal with wolves. They had rules. Stick together, form a wall, make noise. But the hypothermic brain doesn't follow rules. It doesn't even recognize danger when it's staring back at you. The pack draws closer. They don't rush. They've done this before. They know how it ends. R24. Core temperature drops to 80 to F. This is where the heart begins to fail completely. Its electrical system misfires. The brain slows to a crawl. You fade in and out. Even if a rescue team arrived right now, survival would be a long shot. By this point, it's not just one system shutting down, it's all of them. Kidneys, liver, heart, brain, each collapsing under the cold and lack of oxygen. Even ancient cultures, with their knowledge, tools, and communal care, understood there was a line of point beyond which no one comes back. They had traditions to ease the final hours. Comfort, ritual, closure. Not everyone lasted the night. Not everyone was meant to. And how long you'd last depends on more than luck. Body fat, physical condition, age, and past cold exposure will shape your odds of surviving, but none of them guarantee you'll make it to morning. Some would fall sooner. A few might last longer, but the body's response to extreme cold doesn't change. It follows a script, merciless and precise. When the end comes, it's not a battle. The heart doesn't rage against the dying light, it simply fails to send its next signal. Neurons, starved of oxygen, flicker out one by one. There's no gasping breath, no dramatic last word, just a slow slide from fading thought into silence.
The wolves approach quietly, first with caution, then with confidence. Their instincts had already confirmed what they needed to know. This prey no longer posed a threat. They'd seen this before. To even exist in the Ice Age long enough to reproduce, humans had to master a lifetime of survival techniques. They learned to coax fire from freezing stone, navigate across barren white plains, read the clouds for storms, preserve food without refrigeration, craft tools from bone and flint, treat wounds without antibiotics, cooperate in silence, build shelter from what little the landscape offered, and avoid predators that considered them food. They weren't just smart, they were built for it. Larger lungs for deep, oxygen-rich breaths, expanded sinus cavities that warmed air before it hit the lungs, metabolisms tuned to extract every ounce of energy from fat. Even their blood may have been different, optimized for the cold, and they grew up in it. From infancy, their bodies adapted to frost, wind, and scarcity. They didn't survive alone. They survived together. Not everyone knew every skill, but together they covered the full spectrum of survival. Cooperation wasn't optional. It was the backbone of winter survival. We've traded all that. Today's humans are brilliant in other ways. Our strengths lie in innovation. Mathematics, medicine, global networks, abstract reasoning. We can map the stars, edit DNA, send machines to Mars. But we've lost the intimate knowledge of the natural world that once made life possible. This isn't failure, it's specialization. We've adapted to a different world. But that adaptation comes at a cost, profound vulnerability in the face of primitive threats, even the best trained survivalists today. Those with gear, knowledge, and grit would struggle in true Ice Age conditions. Unrelenting cold, gigantic predators, little to eat, no backup, no helicopter coming over the ridge, no signal, no time. Back then, survival wasn't an individual achievement. It was a cultural system passed down through generations. It took thousands of years of accumulated wisdom. to create humans who could thrive in an environment designed to kill. The people who succeeded didn't just endure, they created. They painted cave walls with stories, sculpted figures from ivory, buried their dead with ceremony. They loved. They raised children. They built the foundation for everything that followed. We are their descendants. Their genes, their minds, live in us. But we've let go of their way of life. In its place, we've built cities, invented machines, healed diseases, fed billions. And yet, we remain tethered to systems they never needed: heated homes, grocery stores, emergency phone lines, global infrastructure. The lesson of the Ice Age is simple: survival is never guaranteed. The distance between life and death can be as thin as a blanket, as narrow as a few degrees of body temperature, as short as a single day. Our ancestors endured because they had to, because they worked together, trained constantly, and passed on every lesson, like their lives depended on it, because they did. Their legacy isn't just carved into our bones, it's carved into our story, proof that humans, given enough time, knowledge, and unity, can adapt to anything. But that knowledge, hard-won, precious, can disappear in a single generation. And once lost, it's almost impossible to reclaim. Could we survive the Ice Age again? Maybe, but not alone, not unprepared, not without rediscovering the grit, the systems, and the shared memory that once kept the cold at bay. Dropped into that ancient world, most modern humans wouldn't make it past sunrise. Not for lack of intelligence, but for lack of context. The cold would win. It usually did.